WCRN News Time is at 7:34 on this Monday morning. Up and at 'em, everybody. Hank and Sherman with you, 508-438-0965 to join us here. And was just bringing you up to date with something of a timeline about this House of Horrors, as they are now calling it, in Blackstone. And what a tragic story this is. I mean, what a truly sad story this is. As we're hearing about Erica Murray, her attorney says, I mean, clearly you just take a look at the details of this story. How could she not be somebody who is suffering from mental illness? But the details of the story are so horrific, including and especially the part in which we have the three possibly stillborn children, or possibly the mother. We don't know yet when it comes to these three children. And of course you have the four children, the 13, the 10-year-old, the 3, and the 5-month-old as well. Erica Murray, 31 years old, has now been arrested. Here to talk to us about one aspect of the story is Mike and Jean Morrisey are going to be joining us. Also, Renee, who is a spokesperson for Baby Safe Haven, will be joining us on the line in just a moment as well. Let's start with Mike Morrisey, who's live in the studio with us when it comes to talking about Baby Safe Haven of New England, the work that they do, and how it relates to this Blackstone House of Horrors story, as the press is calling it. Mike, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you for having myself, and Renee will be joining us in a little bit.
Yeah, and actually she's on the line. We'll bring her in the conversation in just a moment. But tell me about what Baby Safe Haven does. Give us a little bit of an overview of your work, first of all, and then we'll talk about how it relates to this story.
Well, we started about 13 years ago, almost exactly 13 years ago, based on not this bizarre a tragedy, but a similar baby abandonment that was found dead. We got involved and said, we got to get this law passed. They started 15 years ago. Was the first one this month in Texas, was the first safe haven law statewide. And we helped get it passed. It took about 3 years. And then we kept staying on by promoting, because I come from radio and television, similar to yourself and Sherman. Worked with Sherman actually years ago in a radio station. And we just kept promoting and promoting and promoting, and that's where we are now. So, we looked at, hundreds of these abandonments to see how do you get the message so that somebody will go to a hospital, police, or fire station within the first 7 days of life in Massachusetts. It goes up to 30 days and 60 days, and a couple of them are 90 days in a couple of the states. How do you get that message out to young people so they don't do something maybe not as extreme as Blackstone? That's the most extreme, or one of the two most extreme cases we've ever seen.
This case really is extreme, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, and especially when you bring up Baby Safe Haven and you talk about there are different places now that are safe havens, whether it's police stations, whether it's hospitals, other locations. In Blackstone, apparently, I mean, almost literally next door, but
150 yards.
150 yards away was the police station,
right.
A safe haven.
And get this, at the door, and you see them in Worcester, they're on all the fire stations, one of those blaze yellow, or blaze orange, yellow, green signs, reflective signs that say Baby Safe Haven and what to do. Yeah, that's at the door 100 yards away.
Now, Erica Murray's story, of course, is in the part that seems so fantastical is that she didn't want her live-in boyfriend, the father of the supposed father of these children, to know. So, I mean, somehow, she would have kept these pregnancies secret. Well, somehow she would have kept these births secret.
That's to us now, that part's not quite relevant. You're going to hear a lot of things from lawyers right now. He's obviously positioning his clients for either the least possible prosecution he can get for his clients, probably trying to absolve the boyfriend from anything, because the amazing thing is my wife, Jean, our co-founder and co-director, she's an amazing researcher, and she dug into the story for the last 3 or 4 days, morning, noon, and night, and she put together some timelines, and that tells you almost everything. It tells you the habits of this person and basically what's happened from the actual event of what took place that we know from the police, and there's 3 babies. Basically, you can figure where they went. But then there's the timeline from her Facebook. She hid all 5 of the babies. But at this time when these babies were 2 months old, she was taking the 2 older ones for trips to Fenway Park and from Blackstone for a night game. That's a 8 to 10 hour journey, and leaving these 2 3-year and 6-month-olds alone for 5 and 6 hours at a time. That was a normal circumstance in that house. So then you think, what happened to the other 3? Did they succumb? You leave a baby for 5 or 6 hours,
Sure.
asphyxiation. Millions of things can happen. Unkempt. They could easily get into a toxic situation of once you get an infection and you don't see a doctor and you're not going to go near a doctor, you can succumb to simply a diaper rash at that point.
Mike, are there some signs? I mean, we're talking about Baby Safe Haven New England and the work that you did so that we have these safe havens, and how tragic it is that in this case, here was a safe haven, as you said, just about 150 yards away. I mean, are there signs where you can reach out to somebody?
Yeah.
I mean, that the signs of some of this squalor, and then we'll bring Renee into the conversation. But, I mean, so I mean, that neighbors should be looking for, that people should be looking for?
We've learned that this woman, who's probably about 5'3", 5'4", that size, that weight, she's a little overweight, but believe it or not, a 5'3", 5'4" young lady that weighs about 110 or 150 pounds, that's the average that hides a pregnancy, and you don't realize she's even pregnant because, winter they put on the baggy clothes, they tend to sag over a little bit. The hardest time to hide pregnancies in the summer, and if this becomes actually 3 safe haven situations where the babies didn't live for 6 months or something of that nature, this would be the 12th, 13th, and 14th babies abandoned in the last 5 weeks. Right. That's how bad it is.
And I want to pick up on that stat in just a minute. That, as much as we are focused on this case, and there are so many aspects. I mean, again, the press dubbing it the House of Horrors, and it's certainly an apt name. But that unfortunately there are these other cases out there, as you just said. What is it? What did you just say? 5 or 6?
This will be the 12th, 13th, and 14th in 5 weeks.
In 5 weeks.
Yeah, just from just July 30th. To when this took place, that's when they're discovered. They could have taken place a little before.
Because this has all of these aspects of the filth of
it's the most extreme, obviously.
Right, and so obviously this captures our attention. But these kinds of stories going on all the time. Renee is one of the faces of Baby Safe Haven. Set this up a little bit about how she came to be a spokesperson.
Well, after we passed the law, we had most people remember the RAP PSA. It was done by high school students in Boston. And after going to a couple of circumstances, young people were singing that to us out of the blue. We'd walk up, we're Baby Safe Haven, bang, 30 seconds, they do it perfectly. So Gene and I looked at each other and slapped ourselves in the back of the head and said, no, we can't go out and talk about this unless it's a political situation. After that, to talk to young people, you have to get young people to do it. There was a class at Cape Cod Community College that tested what we started to do. I found Renee at a little TV station in Wilmington, and she had that it factor that you can talk to young people and become friends with them, and you want to have young people talking to young people, and that's where Renee came from. And she's done 100 appearances for us, 2 times on your station before this.
Right.
And amazing.
And certainly, and we're glad that Renee, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no, good to have you back. I'm sorry that it's under these circumstances, but certainly now the Baby Safe Haven law, I think, is probably going to be back in the news over the next several weeks. Which, this is just such a horrible, and as Mike was saying, this is just such an extreme case. But maybe now a couple of lives will be saved going forward. Renee, when you started to hear about this story, your reaction as somebody who's involved with Baby Safe Haven.
Right. It was really shocking, especially because we haven't had any deadly abandonments in so many years. And, it just makes us get back into the press and into the TVs and the radio stations and really start promoting it again, because that's the thing. We've had such great success with it that we haven't really been invited into these outlets where we can speak to people and get, the message out there again, almost like a reminder. So, this is, it's such an awful story that, took place. We really are hoping that we have the doors open again for us to be back out in the press and start promoting it once again so the message can reach the masses.
Although, Mike, in this case, and Mike Morrisey is with us, Baby Safe Haven, New England. In this case, with the mental illness aspect, right. I guess I'm not sure if you would have been able to reach her.
There are 3 groups that we have the hardest trouble reaching. There are very, very young. They make mistakes easily. They're immature. There are people who come from other countries where there aren't a safe haven law, or even other states that don't promote it well. College students coming to Worcester right now. The third case is people with drug and alcohol addictions and this level of